What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about if Spider-Man 2 can be or will be the greatest superhero game ever created. Talk about our expectations for the game, which I think is important whenever we throw out statements like, could it be the best superhero game ever? We do have to talk about where we're expecting it to land, right? If we're expecting way too much of it, where we set our expectations just in general, I think is very, very important. So, before I get too far in this video, as always, make sure if you guys are not, you're subscribed to the channel. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when all these videos go up. And also, if you want to follow any of our social media stuff, we have a Twitch, we have a Discord, we have a Twitter, and I have a second channel. All of that stuff are in the description below for you guys to check out. All right. Now, I know there's people out there that do think that this game is going to be the greatest thing on planet Earth. So I think you should probably know about me, which I do actually think, it doesn't make me, different from everybody because I hope that there's other people that think this, but I have seen a lot of people, some people, I'm not even saying names, but there are some people that cover Spider-Man that I get the hint, or I get the idea that they do think it's the greatest thing on planet Earth, okay, and that it's just an all-worshipping thing. I don't think everybody does that. I think there are definitely some people out there that are willing to criticize what we've gotten, but there are a lot of people, and I think because of that, not even because of it, I think just in conjunction with it, there's also a lot of fans that say, oh my god, these are like the greatest games ever created, this is the greatest superhero game. I'm still unwilling to say that Spider-Man 2018 is the greatest superhero game ever created, but what I will say is I adore that game to death. I really do love it. Playing it even again, like a few days before Miles Morales came out, so it wasn't even the remaster, but playing it again, I was like, you know what, this game is just so good, like a well-rounded package. It doesn't, I would say some things it does really good, like the combat and the gadgets and stuff like that. I would say that is like elite level territory. Some of the other stuff I would say is not in that elite territory. There were a lot of things that need to be fixed, but now we go to, so like following the history books, now we go to Miles, which we've talked about, like what did it fix from Spider-Man? What did it do worse from Spider-Man? And I think it does both. I think there are some things that it doesn't do as well, mainly story oriented. The story, I think, took a lot of steps backwards, how they told the story, reveals, stuff like that. Now, I'm not going to spoil anything, by the way, but a lot of that stuff they took some big steps back from. And then a lot of stuff they took some huge, giant steps forward to really solidify the basic, like how the game is, the open world feel, the side stuff, the crimes, the side quests, just in general, right? All that stuff. It did a really good job. So, when we've talked about that in the past, we've talked about, okay, again, what did it do better? What did it do worse? What does Spider-Man 2 need to learn from this stuff? And I think I even made that video, right? That was a video, what Spider-Man 2 needs to learn from Miles. Well, in reality, if Spider-Man 2, and I will say, this is my personal opinion, and all of these, by the way, are just opinions. If you don't agree, it's totally cool. But if Spider-Man 2 takes the best of Spider-Man and takes the best of Miles, I will say that it would be the best superhero game to ever come out. I really would. I would say right now it's one of the Arkham games. And again, it's just I don't know how many. And I know people will say, you always say that, and it gets annoying when you say it. Well, trust me, guys, and I really do mean this. Trust me, there are people that don't know what opinions are and don't believe that each person should have them. That's why I say it, is to try to basically drill that into people's heads. It doesn't always work, but sometimes it does. I think I don't know. Like Arkham City is always commonly referred to as like the best superhero game, or the best Arkham game for sure. My favorite is Asylum. Arkham Knight feels the best in terms of gameplay. I would say if you put all three, and even Arkham Origins is good in its own ways, if you put the best of all of the Arkham games together, you would also get the best superhero game ever created. So it's tough, and it really is just a question of, can you actually do it? As we've seen, if Cyberpunk, if The Last of Us, if any of these games have taught us anything, is that in the end, no game, no company is ever completely safe. You can have as much faith in a company as you want. I would, and I'm actually saying that, like, go ahead, put faith in whatever company you want, but be wary, because it can fall apart literally at the drop of a dime. The last Naughty Dog lost a huge amount of support, obviously not by the gaming industry because they're all suck-ups, but, in general, they lost a ton of support because of what happened. Cyberpunk lost a ton of support because of what happened by everybody for Cyberpunk. So, I'm not saying Insomniac is going to literally fall apart and forget where they are for Spider-Man 2 and just have it be a disaster fire. But, can it be the best superhero game ever? I would say, look, Miles, the gameplay reminded me how truly amazing the gameplay is. I actually like Miles' gadgets more. I like the more simplistic feel of it, where there's only 4 of them, right? There's less gadgets overall, but I don't know, the combat just feels so good. I mean, it borrows, I would even go so far as to say steals, a lot of what makes the Arkham, and by the way, other games have done it, the the Middle-earth games, Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War, it's, people take from each other, that's okay. But the combat is top tier. And really, if you just kept the combat, I would say, fine. That still puts you in the elite territory. Okay, now what else do you got? The side stuff, the crimes, the things like that. Can you do that right? The open world feel, which is very important. And I do think Miles, by the way, did a little bit of a better job at that. Still, they have to figure out a way, I would say, to do the crimes a little bit better. In Spider-Man, they were way too repetitive. And then in Miles, they happen every 30, not even 30. I would say they happen every 10 seconds. There was a new crime going on, right? So you really couldn't catch a break with either of these two games. They got to figure that out. And then the story. Again, hot take. The story in Spider-Man, I would say, is Spider-Man 2018. I would say is good, maybe great, but I would not go so far. In my opinion, again, oh my God, I'm not going to say it. I would say it's not amazing. I would say it's not spectacular. I wouldn't go so far as to say that. And again, that could be a hot take. There were a lot of good things about the Spider-Man story. There was a lot of good characters. I think they actually balanced a lot of characters really well. They set up future things really, really well. And again, so I mean, when we're talking about Spider-Man 2, that is the discussion I think we need to have, is they need to take the best parts of these games. The story was good, but the story of Miles, I would say, it was good, it was emotional, but again, what we've talked about with, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but the reveals, certain ways they handle things, now, mainly it was because it was a shorter story, but I would not say it was even great. I would say they messed up quite a bit. And again, even Spider-Man, it's not like it was the greatest story ever told. I know some people think it is. To me, it's not, and that's okay. So, for Spider-Man 2, I think, again, what it needs to do is it needs to sort out the side stuff, the crimes, the world building that Miles and Spider-Man did an okay job, and some did better than others. They need to figure that out. The story needs to be raised a new level. And by the way, when we talk about the story, and I know people have I've even talked about, right, the symbiote suit, what they could do with, Venom, what they could do with the Green Goblin, there's so much, and there's so much potential for all these characters and villains and all this stuff. The story could probably take it away. And I'm not saying, well, I guess I am kind of saying, right, where it's it needs to kind of do everything. If it does one thing spectacular, but it does the rest good or great or average or whatever, I don't know if it'll carry it, mainly because I think as of right now, I would still say, I would agree. I mean, Arkham City's story is phenomenal. The villains, the characters are super good. The ending of the game, the story in general, the gameplay this is right when Arkham starts to get really, really good in terms of the gameplay. There is the traversal. There is enough stuff to do in the game. I mean, I would say they put it together really well, where there isn't a huge weakness. Like I said, you look at Arkham Knight, the story is the weakness. You look at Arkham Asylum, probably the gameplay and just the world itself is probably the weakness, right? So each game kind of has a weakness to it. Origins, there's actually quite a few weaknesses, but I guess it depends on who you ask, okay? But Arkham City is more of a bit, I would say, well-rounded. Spider-Man, I would say, is close. The original Spider-Man, because I would say everything is relatively at least good. I think, again, some of the crimes, some of the hideouts, some of the stuff that gets very repetitive, that kind of borderlines on good. So I would say Spider-Man got it really close, and then Miles took it and, again, made some things above and beyond, and then weakened some things. So for a Spider-Man 2, I just think you kind of have to do everything at a pretty solid rate where nothing can really seem like it sticks out. And that is, by the way, could be tough if the story is so good, because I do want to give that credit. People will say, well, all these villains, all the potential, having Miles, and by the way, having Miles and Peter, maybe if you play as both of them, we've talked about tag teaming, co-op kind of fighting. I mean, these are things that are going to take it to a new level. But if that's the sole focus and the rest of it lags behind, right? Maybe the story isn't so good. Maybe there's too many villains. Maybe, whatever. Maybe, again, they can't figure out how to make the world, more engaging with crimes and side quests and stuff like that. If that sucks. But the story's so good and you're fighting and it feels great to play as both characters, I don't know. I don't know if that makes it the best superhero game of all time, because it still can't put everything fully together. I know it sounds like I'm criticizing it. I mean, I love both the 2018 Spider-Man and Miles. I think they're phenomenal games. I think they're some of the better games that came out in each year. They're not my favorite games of all time. They're not my favorite games of the years that they came out, but they are really, really good. And I do think Spider-Man 2, honestly, has a really solid shot to be the best superhero game. Again, I think right now I would probably say Arkham City is up there as the best one. I don't really know how you could say any of the other Arkham games. Spider-Man, obviously a lot of people said that. I mean, sales aside, like Spider-Man, just that 2018 game outsold like over two games plus of the Batman Arkham game. So, I mean, it's done very well in terms of, like, money, in terms of engagement, in terms of people that have actually played it. I mean, within the next game, it could already overpass what the Arkham games have done, which is spectacular. But can it just put it all together is pretty much the question. So I'm asking that to you. Let me know, do you think Spider-Man 2 will be the best superhero game ever created? Let me know what you think it has to do to get there. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed to this channel. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when all these videos go up. Again, you guys can follow me on any of my other social media stuff, Twitter, Discord, second channel, Twitch. All of it is in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching. More Spider-Man videos coming to you guys every so often. It's gonna get a little bit less frequent as time goes on, but I do definitely want to keep these semi-consistent, okay? Thank you for watching, guys, and I hope to see you all on the next video.